Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday. It's the last Wednesday of April, which is mind blowing. I am just going to wait a second. I know I'm on a little bit early. I just want to check and make sure everything is working well. Okay, perfect. Looks like that's working. And let me see if it's working in my Facebook group. Yay. Okay, perfect. So, hello. I am so excited to talk about today's topic where we get to, focus more on the nutrition of thyroid and thyroid dysfunction and really like hone in on what can support the treatment of hypothyroidism. So over the last several weeks, again, this has been a very ongoing series, I guess. But over the last several weeks, I've discussed adrenal dysfunction, the connection between your adrenals and your thyroid. I've talked about hypothyroidism. And last week, we actually, went over the nutrition and lifestyle strategies to treat adrenal dysfunction. So today I'm going to be focusing on the nutrition and lifestyle strategies for hypothyroidism. So if you didn't watch last week's video, make sure that you go back and watch that, as a lot of times treating adrenal dysfunction also helps with treating your thyroid too. There are some specific things when it comes to your thyroid, especially with hypothyroidism, and I will get into that, like certain foods that you might want to cook or ferment, because eating them raw could actually be more harmful for your thyroid than beneficial. So just some little nuances here and there that might deviate from the adrenal video, but a lot of times getting to the root cause, the strategies and the nutrition is going to be pretty similar. So as a refresher, I just want to go over briefly what can contribute to thyroid dysfunction. So stress, inflammation, any infections that you have come across that have maybe been very severe for you, chronic infections, ultimately are infections like when you have chronic infections and like you're getting hit with virus after virus or illness after illness. This can lead to a disruption in our gut microbiome. It's going to affect your immune system, which in turn affects, all of your systems. There are dietary factors as well, such as gluten can contribute to it, goitrogens, which we will discuss. Low calorie diets can really hinder your thyroid, nutritional insufficiencies, so not getting enough of specific, vitamins and minerals, which we have talked about in previous videos. So make sure that you watch the thyroid videos. Medications, again, going back to the previous video that I spoke about hypothyroidism and underlying factors that influence it. I talk about medications there, and then various toxins too. So think of like pesticides, think of toxins like mercury, cadmium, lead, fluoride, which actually is an antagonist to iodine. So iodine is a huge contributor, there we go, to a functioning thyroid. And so when you have fluoride, it can actually hinder the iodine and, its function. So want to make sure that we are very much minimal on our fluoride, which, it's in our water. Make sure that you're drinking purified water. It's in toothpaste. It's in so many things. So just be very mindful. When it comes to treatment of hypothyroidism, the goal of treatment is to get to the root cause or causes. Usually it's more than just one cause that are fueling the hypothyroidism. So sometimes that entails, obviously we look at our thyroid labs. Again, I'm going to refer to those other videos so that you can, see what labs are looked at. Also like the ranges that you want your labs to be in. But you might want to look at other labs, or your practitioner will want to look at other labs that can also be big contributors to a thyroid problem and can help get to the root cause of the issue. So we want to look at iron. So, that's just in standard blood work. We look at your complete blood count. You also want to look at ferritin, which is your iron storage, zinc. So we're looking at RBC zinc, or red blood cell zinc. Selenium, we want to look at RBC selenium and whole blood glutathione. For vitamin D status, that's pretty standard. We look at the 25-OH vitamin D3 levels. Vitamin A, that one's rarely ordered. However, it can be really helpful to see, if you're taking a micronutrient test, to see where that's at, because you might want to supplement. A lot of times, if you're working with like a dietitian or a practitioner, you can do food recalls and things like that to see, okay, are you getting enough vitamin A? And if not, usually then it's recommended to supplement. Iodine status, we look at through your urinary iodine, and it's a fasting spot initially that we look at. A celiac panel can be very helpful. So you look at the standard panel, plus you want to look at the IgG, which is a food sensitivity type test of gliadin. So that is a protein for gluten. We always want to order a celiac panel when you have elevated antibodies and a diagnosis of Hashimoto's, and also Graves', which is that autoimmune condition for hyperthyroidism. But today I'm going to be focusing on hypothyroidism. And we want to look for any food sensitivities. So there are plenty of tests out there. The one that that has a lot of research behind it, that I have had clients do really well with, is called MRT food sensitivity test. And it's called like a LEAP protocol that we utilize to help incorporate the lowest offending foods and then work our way up and see how people tolerate different foods. It's a blood test, and it's wonderful. I've done it myself and notice a huge difference. And yeah. So the biggest support to healing, honestly, is to remove any triggers and address any stressors, and then supplement in areas where necessary. So we want to remove, and then we want to add in and supplement with different nutrients and foods that will only support and enhance our thyroid function. Hormone replacement therapy may be necessary at times as well, depending on the person. So some overall dietary recommendations. We want to look for whole, fresh foods incorporated into our diet with plenty of vegetables, good quality protein, good quality oils, nuts and seeds, and have slow burning carbs in modest amounts. So we want to make sure that we are consuming enough carbohydrates, as carbs are very important for thyroid hormone production. And there's evidence that does support that low carbohydrate diets. Think of like, keto diets can actually reduce T3 levels. However, more research is needed to determine, what the ideal carbohydrate intake for thyroid health would be. And it's going to vary from individual to individual. So we want to, choose these slow burning carbs from grains or vegetables. We don't want to have the high glycemic load where your blood sugars are going to spike and then they're going to plummet. We want to have these slow burning carbs. So carbs that have a lot of fiber, that are, complex. So think of your legumes, your whole grains, cooked potatoes. They are all high in resistant starches and indigestible fibers. They also increase healthy gut microbiota, there we go, and help decrease the unhealthy gut flora, and help with improving your blood sugar balance and insulin sensitivity as well. So consuming these slow burning carbs, 4 hours before bed, can actually increase your natural production of melatonin. And that in and of itself can help you fall asleep easier and have a deeper sleep too. So sources would be like brown rice, buckwheat, quinoa, millet, and oats, wild rice, red rice, pink rice, or black rice. Those are all great sources of slow burning carbs. Eliminating gluten can really be helpful for people with hypothyroidism, especially those with, Hashimoto's, the autoimmune version. So Hashimoto's has been linked with celiac disease, and therefore, a gluten-free diet may be beneficial for those with Hashimoto's thyroiditis. There was a 2019 study that found that a gluten-free diet significantly reduced thyroid antibodies and increased vitamin D levels in participants with Hashimoto's. You also want to eliminate, at least for a time being, like at least 3 weeks, I tell people, cross-reactive grains as well. So they may be considered gluten-free, but a lot of times these grains can contain gluten just because of a lot of times they're grown in fields very close to gluten containing fields, and winds can actually blow gluten and different pollen so that they kind of crossbreed, and then you can have these issues. So corn, millet, and oats can be problems, and a lot of times it might not even be that they are grown close to the fields, but these different proteins in the corn, the millet, and the oats can actually mimic what gluten does to the body and mimic, gluten in the body. So it can look like it to your body, and your body recognizes it as gluten. So then, you have this effect where you're eating corn, millet, and oats, might not be gluten, but your body is thinking it is. And so then you have these reactions. Getting in high quality protein foods is very important. So it keeps you energized, it keeps blood sugar steady, provides the body with amino acids that are necessary to transport hormones and manufacture important detoxification agents in your body, like glutathione, that major antioxidant that also helps with detoxification. These proteins are also rich in vitamins B6, B12, zinc, selenium, and CoQ10. CoQ10 is very necessary for energy. It's also, great for our metabolism. And we want to opt for lean, free-range, grass-fed, organically grown meats when possible. The non-GMO plant proteins and wild-caught or organic farm-raised fish. So the animal sources would be like your beef, chicken, eggs, fish that's low in mercury, lamb, and turkey. Some great plant sources would be your legumes and beans. They're rich in zinc, folate, and amino acids to support detoxification. They also contain phytoestrogens that can reduce the effects of environmental endocrine disruptors. So some examples would be adzuki beans, black beans, kidney beans, lentils, garbanzo beans, lima beans, navy beans, pinto beans, white beans, split peas. And for it's going to vary for the person too. Some people may not do well with beans and might react more to that. So sometimes doing an elimination diet, which I will get to in a second, but eliminates, the most offending and triggering foods, and then slowly adding can help pinpoint, hey, do I have an issue with this group of foods, or maybe just specific beans and legumes? It'll vary based on the person. We want to monitor and limit goitrogens. So goitrogens are compounds in foods that we find, so in like our cruciferous vegetables, we find it in soy, millet. We can have issues with tapioca and cassava, peanuts, pine nuts, and more. And they may impair thyroid function by interfering with iodine uptake in the thyroid gland. So again, iodine has a huge, huge role with the functioning of our thyroid, and goitrogens can disrupt that iodine uptake. It's often recommended that patients with hypothyroidism avoid foods that are high in goitrogens. Current evidence suggests it's probably only necessary for those with an iodine deficiency. But avoid consuming large amounts, especially raw, if iodine intake is inadequate. Cooking and fermenting cruciferous vegetables has been shown to be an effective strategy for lowering that goitrogen content, but that is not said for soy. It's really only for those cruciferous vegetables. So elimination diets. The autoimmune protocol is one of the biggest ones that have been shown to really be helpful for Hashimoto's thyroiditis or hypothyroidism. It takes out many of the top offending foods, and then you slowly add them in back in one by one every 4 to 5 days. So usually, I tell people try to have the elimination of a 6 week elimination. 3 is the very minimum. Um, and 12, we really don't want to go past 12 weeks because, then it can really start to take hold on our body, and then we're not getting enough of specific vitamins and nutrients or minerals. And we don't want, repercussions from that either. So you add in these foods every 4 to 5 days, and if symptoms arise, you know what foods to eliminate, and you do this at a very slow rate. The biggest offending foods that are eliminated in, the autoimmune protocol, I did make a video of that, so you can always watch that to see. But nightshades, like your potatoes, tomatoes, bell peppers, etc. Nightshades are eliminated. All grains are eliminated. Nuts and seeds are eliminated. Dairy is eliminated. Obviously, like processed foods are going to be eliminated. So any additives. I feel like I'm missing something. I don't know if I said beans and legumes. Those are going to be eliminated as well. So again, go back to my autoimmune protocol videos, and that will give you an insight on how to do the protocol, what's eliminated, and all of that. So this protocol gives an insight as to what foods may be a problem for you. It helps with pinpointing your issues. It's not here's what everyone has a problem with. It is so tailored to you. And elimination diets in general, we also want to eliminate sugar and white or refined carbs, especially if you have hypothyroidism. Any artificial sweeteners and sugar substitutes. Think of Equal, NutraSweet, aspartame, Splenda, sucralose, all of those. We want to eliminate those. You want to eliminate fruit juice and soda and high fructose corn syrup as well. We want to eliminate all artificial ingredients and poor quality oils and fats. So think of any artificial colors and flavors, any fake dairy substitutes, especially like creamers. A lot of those have additives in there to help emulsify and thicken the liquids. And I mean, there are some good non-dairy milks out there, like Malk or Elmhurst 1925 or Three Trees. Those are all wonderful, like very minimal ingredients. Fat substitutes we want to eliminate, like margarine, olestra, food additives in general, food coloring and dyes. We really want to get rid of those. Food preservatives, fried foods, processed meats, trans fats, vegetable oils, canola oil, corn oil, peanut oil. Want to get rid of those ones. We want to emphasize a diet that is high in pre and probiotic foods and address any gut dysbiosis that may be occurring. So it's going to vary again based on the individual, any food triggers that is leading to this gut dysbiosis. Are you having too high of sugar in your diet? But we want to, start to add more of the fermented foods into our routine. So coconut yogurt or kefir, make sure it's unsweetened. Kimchi is great. Sauerkraut. Probiotic supplements can be very beneficial as well. We want to emphasize a diet that is high in phytonutrients when it comes to the treatment of hypothyroidism. So we want to eat the colors of the rainbow, aim for 7 servings of vegetables a day. Sources of, those nice colorful rainbow colors would be like asparagus, carrots, celery, green beans, snow peas, onions, purple broccoli, red cabbage is great, red, yellow, and green peppers, adding in tomatoes and eggplant. Those are nightshades I do want to mention. So if you do have an issue with nightshades, you'll want to steer clear of that, find alternatives. Yellow summer squash and zucchini are also really great. We want to emphasize starchy vegetable sources. So they will help provide your body with those longer sustaining carbs, um, and provide you energy. So beets, parsnips, sweet potatoes, white, yellow, and purple potatoes are going to be great. Winter squashes like delicata, pumpkin, acorn, spaghetti squash, butternut squash, etc. Leafy greens are going to be great, and we do want to incorporate them. They contain detoxifying and antioxidant nutrients. We want to try for 4 cups a day if possible. If you do have Hashimoto's and an iodine deficiency, we want to avoid eating these foods in raw, large quantities, like I mentioned, because of those goitrogens that they contain. So we want to cook them, ferment them, and that will lower those goitrogens. Sources of this will be like the arugula, the bok choy, the broccoli and rapini, Brussels sprouts, cabbage and cauliflower, Swiss chard, collard greens, dandelion greens, kale, lettuces and salad greens, all of them, except for, we really want to minimize the iceberg lettuce. Mustard greens and spinach are great sources as well. Again, cooking and fermenting these are going to be wonderful, and we're going to lower those goitrogens so that it doesn't have that impact on our thyroid. Fruits, we want to get in, fruits. They're going to help with getting in the colors. They're going to help get in those phytochemicals that are very beneficial for our thyroid and our health, our immune system, our gut microbiome. And, they're high in vitamins and minerals. So fruits are very helpful and can protect against inflammation and oxidative stress because they contain antioxidants as well. But they are higher in sugar. So we want to be mindful of that and, make sure we're consuming them in moderation. Some of the lowest sugar containing fruits would be like your apples, blackberries, blueberries, your cherries, kiwi, raspberries, and strawberries. So there is a variety. And having less ripe bananas will contain like resistant starch too. They aren't that tasty, I will say, but you can add them to smoothies and you can hide that flavor. But that resistant starch can be really beneficial for your bacteria. The more ripe the banana is, the higher in sugar it's going to be. And you can tell by that sweetness that really occurs. Overripe bananas, we love to put in banana bread because of that sweetness. We really want to emphasize with this diet, make sure it's low in the omega-6, omega-3 ratio. So we get a lot of omega-6 with our grains, the processed foods, the oils that are in a lot of our processed foods, and we don't get enough of our omega-3s. So, those come from like our fatty fish sources, nuts and seeds, those healthy fats. We don't get enough of those omega-3s. So we really want to up the omega-3s in our diet. Be mindful of our omega-6s when we eradicate those processed foods. That's really going to help lower those omega-6s. But, as we're incorporating those omega-3s, that ratio is going to lower, which is great. So, get in a variety of nuts and seeds. They're high in fat and protein as well, so beneficial in that sense. Sources, almonds, Brazil nuts, cashews, coconut, flaxseed, hemp seed, pecans, pine nuts, pumpkin seeds, sesame seeds, sunflower seeds, walnuts, all fabulous. Incorporate fatty fish in your weekly menu. Or, if you're not a fish person or you can't find great fish local, then take an omega-3 supplement. Nordic Naturals is a great brand that's very transparent. I don't have any affiliation with them. I just want to give you a quality source. Make sure that we are incorporating good quality fats in the diet. So every meal should include a serving of a healthy fat. All oils should be cold pressed, organic, non-GMO, and sold in dark bottles or opaque packaging that helps protect them from any oxidation due to light exposure. So the darker the bottle, the less we're going to have rancid oils. We don't want rancid oils. That's going to create inflammation in the body. Sources would be avocado and avocado oil, coconut oil and unsweetened coconut milk. Extra virgin olive oil is great. Ghee, which is an ultra clarified butter. Olives, black or green are fantastic. Sesame oil, do not want to, that's more of like a finishing oil. Don't want to be heating that on high heat. Same with sunflower oil and walnut oil. Those are great finishing oils. We don't want to be like processing them because of the inflammation that can occur. You want to add in beneficial, excuse me, beneficial spices and herbs too. I am going to take some water. So these, are full of phytochemicals, are full of nutrients and components that can help our gut bacteria, help our immune system, bring us with the nutrients to help our thyroid. So there's a lot of benefits when you add herbs and spices to your meals. You get great flavoring too, which is like just the cherry on the top. Some great sources: basil, cardamom, cayenne, cilantro. Make sure the cilantro is fresh, not necessarily the dried. Cinnamon, cumin, curry blends, dill, garlic, ginger, mint, oregano, parsley, rosemary, turmeric. Those are all going to be great. Garlic is another great one too. And, if you are someone who is very reliant on coffee or caffeine, we may want to reconsider the coffee and caffeine. Green tea is wonderful. Maybe if you can make that your caffeine source, or very much like limiting your coffee or caffeine. I allow myself coffee one time a week, and usually it's on a weekend that I enjoy it. But my body does not do well if I have it every day. I am also very sensitive to caffeine, which my food sensitivity tests help me see that. And I think I probably knew that all along. With anxiety, that would spike. But it was nice to see it on paper and be in my face. So maybe you just take a break from your coffee or caffeine. Coffee can cause plummeting blood sugars. It can actually enhance PMS and worsen hot flashes. And that's because when you consume coffee, it actually it releases stress hormones in the body. So cortisol, is increased. That's one of those stress hormones. And coffee can also steal your energy and lead to fatigue, especially if you're consuming it every day. Your body and your brain start to recognize it. So we have a neurotransmitter that we have in our body called adenosine. And when we have enough adenosine throughout the day, it actually helps our body, realize it's tired. The more adenosine that you accumulate and the more that it attaches to these receptors in our brain, our body's like, okay, it's time to get ready for sleep. But when we have caffeine actually takes the place of the adenosine and the receptors in the brain. And then your adenosine is just sitting there accumulating. And when the caffeine or the coffee, gets out of the system, you have a whole bunch of adenosine that's like, we need to get to these receptors, and you crash. If you have caffeine, especially in higher quantities, on a daily basis, it can actually start to get to the point where your body's like, we don't have enough adenosine in the body. We need to start making more. And so because these, the caffeine's taking place. And so then it's leading to these fatigue and crashes. The coffee is then not benefiting you with, that higher energy. It's just leading to worse outcomes for you. So there's a whole lot with coffee and caffeine. It tastes great, right? It's fun to enjoy, but we need to really be mindful of our consumption. Some supplementation may be necessary in the treatment of hypothyroidism, like supplementing with selenium, 200 to 400 micrograms a day. Zinc, we often see a supplementation with 15 to 30 milligrams a day. Selenium and zinc are, along with magnesium, is highly depleted from our soils. So a lot of us are needing extra help and supplementation in this area. Vitamin D, usually it's like 2,000 IUs a day, possibly more. You want to get your, vitamin D levels checked. Vitamin A supplementation, can range around like 2,000 international units a day. Iodine, very dependent on the person. You don't want to just start taking iodine. You want to see if you have an iodine deficiency. But 150 micrograms is usually where it is on the supplementation spectrum. but we don't want to get too much iodine either, as that can lead to hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's, so you're attacking of the thyroid gland. Iron, 15 to 20 milligrams, especially in menstruating women, is often supplemented too. So those are the top supplements that we often see to help with the functioning thyroid. And then, some lifestyle treatments to go along with it. You want to make sure that you're getting enough adequate sleep. So having great sleep hygiene, great sleep patterns, maybe incorporating some magnesium to help you fall asleep, magnesium salt baths, those are wonderful. Exercise, getting in movement is crucial. We don't want to have too strenuous though either, as that can really, hinder our thyroid because it stresses the body out more. So, gentle movement can be very beneficial. We want to have a sense of community and belonging. We want all areas of our life in balance because remember, we want to reduce the stressors and reduce that underlying inflammation in the body. So having balance in our life is going to be key. Implementing those stress reduction techniques that I've talked about in the past, and having mindful eating. So slowing down when we're eating, taking a breath before eating, that's all going to be really beneficial for treating hypothyroidism. So with that said, that is what I have for you today in regards to, the protocol and treatment for thyroid dysfunction. And in this case, I'm talking about hypothyroidism. The treatment, it's going to vary. It's vary on, the person, depending on your symptoms, any nutrient deficiencies you might have, what foods trigger you, all of that. So, and whether it's Hashimoto's or if you have the non-autoimmune hypothyroidism. So please let me know if you have any questions. I would love to hear any comments in the chat. It's great to have some feedback. I hope that you found this helpful, and yeah, until next Wednesday, I hope that you guys have a great rest of your April, and I'll be seeing you in May. Take care.